Hello everyone, I'm right here, and yeah, my table is full of things. So today we are making a cherry blossom card, and let me just paint a picture for you and imagine this. You are laying down on the grass, you're looking up at the sky, and you see all of these cherry blossoms falling from the tree. Maybe somewhere you hear a bee buzzing, maybe you have a butterfly somewhere and a ladybug, and then all the way in the background you have the blue sky and the sun is just making everything look so shimmery and so magical. That's what we're gonna capture today in our card, and that's why we need all of these things. So the stamps we have are the butterflies here, and we're going to use both of these and also this little one here on the side. They don't come with dies, so we're fussy cutting them out. We have the cherry blossoms, and we're using both of these, and they do have dies, so we're going to use that later in the video too. And that's it for the stamps today. We also have a sentiment that we're going to use. It's going to be Happy Spring. And this one is going to go on the inside of the card just because the front is going to be decorated so much with the butterflies and the cherry blossoms that I think it's better to keep it on the inside. I also have these bees and ladybugs that I drew out, and I'm going to show you later in the video how to emboss them because they don't have stamps. I also have my Spellbinder die cutting machine here. I have a little kit with ink pads and embossing powder that we're going to use for all of our decorations, and a lot of different cardstock and paper just because today we're not coloring any of our decorations. We're just using the cardstock and that's it. So no coloring. So there we have it, a quick run through what we're using today. So let's get started, and I'm gonna explain things as we go. Alright, so here we have the pink tie-dye paper, and to me the different shades of pink on this paper resembles the different shades of pink a cherry blossom can have. So I'm gonna try to find spots on this paper that I kind of like and I think will resemble a cherry blossom really well. So as you see here, I'm trying to find the spots on the paper. I'm testing them out with the stamps just to see how much it would cover and kind of what it would look like. And once I have the ones that I like, I'm gonna go ahead and just cut them out from the paper so they're in smaller pieces, so then I can use them at on my stamping platform when it's time to stamp. Alright, so I'm gonna cut my spots out and I will see you when it's time to stamp. Alright, so this is my kit that we're using for this next part, and I have my cherry blossoms here, the little pieces that I've cut out. We're using both of these ink pads and this embossing powder for this next part. So let's get to stamping and embossing. I'm placing my stamp down on the little paper, and I'm putting magnets on the paper just so the paper is super still so we can restamp several times and it stamps on exactly the same spot. I'm gonna go ahead and use this black ink here and dab lightly, and then once we close this again, you're gonna push with light pressure on the stamp. And then when you're happy with all the details, you can wipe off the black ink so we can go ahead and use the translucent ink that's gonna help the embossing powder adhere. So same thing here, just a light pressure down onto the stamp. There we go. So now we can go ahead and use the embossing powder. So you'll pour the embossing powder all over your little cherry blossom here. Make sure you cover the whole thing. It's gonna look matte. You won't see as much of the black, but once we use the heat gun, you'll see that it just ends up clear and you can see all the detail. So here you see how it slowly goes from that matte white to the black ink that we used, and it gets just so sparkly and it's so pretty. It just gives it like a nice little detail on the stamp. And as you see, the pink inside of the cherry blossom just captures all of those pink colors we would have colored, but we just used the cardstock now. Now it's time for our butterflies, and we're gonna pick out the spots and the color combinations that we like on this paper, and it's the same process as with the cherry blossoms. So, but it's gonna be a little fast forwarded because you've already seen it once. So we're gonna go ahead and do this part. So here are all our butterflies and our cherry blossoms. They are looking so pretty and colorful. I'm so happy with them. So let's go ahead and do our bees and ladybugs, and the same thing here. I'm gonna pick out the yellow spots for the bees and one of these red spots on those papers for the ladybugs. So the way I need to do this is because some of these spots have white areas, as you can see here. So I'm gonna try to have the bee wings on the white spot and the body of the bee on the yellow spot. Okay, so to be able to see where I'm drawing, because I need to draw the bee onto the yellow paper, I'm using this light up pad just for it to be easier for me to see. I don't think the camera can really pick it up, but I can see it very well. I'm tracing first with a regular pencil, then I'm gonna go over it with a black ink pen, and then in the end I'm using the embossing pens that we're gonna use in this video, and they are from American Crafts. They come in different tips, so you can use it for different types of projects. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw and trace all of these little bees, and I will see you later. As you can see here, the embossing pen is really saturating the area where we drew, and it's gonna make it so easy for the embossing powder to adhere to the bee. We're gonna cover it completely, making sure the embossing powder covers the whole bee, and then the heating gun just does its magic, and it just looks so cute, and it's so sparkly. It's just so pretty. Okay, time to fussy cut all of our pieces out, and then we're gonna go ahead and cut the cherry blossoms out. I'm using the dies the stamp sets came with, adding a piece of tape here just to make sure the dies stay in place, and I'm gonna run them through the Spellbinders die cutting machine, and this is what it ends up looking. It is so pretty. The pink is just so nice. I really like how this ends up looking. Alright, so we have all of our little decorations now. We have the bees here and the ladybugs. They just ended up so great. We also have our butterflies and our cherry blossoms. I'm so happy with the results. Okay, so it's time to do our background for all of our decorations. So I'm using this seafoam color here and my little blending tool, and I'm just gonna try to make it look like the sky. So I'm gonna go ahead with some circular motions on the paper. So I'm pushing down the blending tool onto the paper, and it's totally fine for the blue ink to be uneven on the paper because I want it to look fluffy and soft edges like the clouds and the sky does look like in real life. Okay, and this is what we end up with. I think it looks really nice. It looks fluffy and the blue is so uneven, so it actually reminds me of the sky. I really like it. So I also want to add a little background to our background, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and use this blue sparkling paper. I'll cut it out later and we'll see what it looks like. For now, let's just see how we want our decorations to look like. Let's play around with the layout a little bit and see what we come up with. Okay, I think this is what the layout is gonna be. So this is basically our front of the card, guys. I'm gonna add some double-sided tape on some of these decorations, and then some of them are gonna have a piece of foam sheet underneath, just because I want him. So like this one here, for example, it's just gonna make him look like they're off the paper a little bit and give it some dimension to the different decorations that we have on the card, and I think that just makes it a little interesting. So here I have the blue sparkling card I was talking about earlier, and I think it just adds a nice little frame to it. And this foam sheet is gonna go in between the blue cards. So, but first I need to transfer all of our decorations onto another paper so I can work with these cards. Alright, so we have that all done, and now we can transfer all of our decorations to the blue card and actually adhere them. So here we go, the last little flower is going on right now, and that's it. This is what our front is gonna look like. The foam sheet really gives it a nice little depth to it. So let's work with our folding card. I'm just gonna stick it on with some double-sided tape, and then I'm gonna trim all the axes around. Okay, so here we have our folding card all done, so we can finally work with the inside, and I want to have a nice frame all the way around, and I'm gonna use the blue sparkling card as before. I'm cutting some strips here. They're a little less than a 1/4 inch thick and 12 inches long, just because the paper is that length, and I need about 4 of them for the whole card on the inside. Here I'm just gonna add some double-sided tape to them, and then I'm setting them aside so we can work on the sentiment for the inside of the card. And here we have the happy spring sentiment that I'm using, and again I'm picking out the color combinations I like on the paper, and then I'm gonna crank it through my Spellbinders right here. And there we have it. And now it's time to bring our embossing pens back in, and we're gonna draw all over this sentiment, making sure to cover the entire sentiment, because once the embossing powder is gonna go on these, we just want to make sure it adheres everywhere. Okay, now we're just gonna place it into the embossing powder. We're using the same embossing powder. We're covering it completely, making sure it adheres to the whole sentiment. Shake it around, and then we're gonna let the heat gun do its magic. And now that we have our sentiments all done, we can start working with the inside of our card. Okay, and so I'm starting with the strips here to do the frame on the inside, and I'm starting with the long side first, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do the short sides. We are almost done, guys. Let's use some liquid glue for our Happy Spring sentiment, and then we're gonna use double-sided tape for the butterfly. All done, guys, and we did so much today. We used embossing powder, embossing pens, die cutting, fussy cutting. We used cardstock instead of coloring every single decoration, and it looks so good. Thank you guys so much for checking out my tutorial today. Please like and subscribe because I will be uploading more videos, and I will see you on the next project.